Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, got a post here by Zonix that's been reposted by Hedera, and they say, a new era for energy finance just went live on chain. Zonix and Magnus and Hedera equals institutional grade oil and gas rebuilt for the digital age. Today, Zonix is powering one of the most significant leaps in real-world asset tokenization. The Magnus Cayman Tokenized Energy Opportunity Fund is now live on the Hedera network, bringing institutional petroleum finance into a transparent, compliant, programmable digital market. For decades, access to producing petroleum assets (PDPs) and energy-backed lending has been locked behind private equity gates. Not anymore. Magnus is now issuing its regulated investment interests as security tokens through Zonix Z Protocol (DCIST and ERC7518) and Zonix Z360 Lifecycle Engine. Together, they embed compliance, eligibility, transfer controls, and audit-ready governance directly into every token, turning traditional energy finance into a global, digital, institution-ready product. And with Hedera's carbon-negative high-throughput ledger as the settlement layer, the fund gains radical transparency, global accessibility, near-instant settlement, enterprise-grade security, ESG-aligned infrastructure. This is the blueprint for the next generation of institutional RWAs. Hedera Foundation provides the sustainable trust layer, Zonix provides the compliance and lifecycle rails. Magnus delivers the energy assets, collateral and discipline. Together, one transparent programmable market with aligned incentives and institutional liquidity at its core. Okay, so there it just said Hedera Foundation. I'm assuming they're just being Hedera in general there in regards to that. But yeah, nonetheless, let's get into this. Guys, absolutely incredible stuff here. So when I've been telling you guys about what tokenization is going to do, it's accessibility, right? This is where a lot of the things that wasn't accessible before, they're basically unlocking the gates, right? They're making it accessible to everyone. And so, you know, like when I think about real estate, one of the things that I've always said about real estate is fractionalized ownership. And that's what tokenization will be so great for with the real estate market, because for a lot of people, when they wanted to get into property, they had to have just X amount of money, right? Like they had to have a minimum of a deposit, for example, and that kind of thing. But when you've got fractionalized ownership, if you just pay a percentage into that token, you just have a token representative of how much you own of a property. It doesn't really matter how much you put in, you'll still make profit on that percentage, right? So even if you only own 1% of that property, that's still a stake you now have in that property, and you could still get a profit, a yield based on that 1%, no matter how little it is. So this is where it's unlocking way more doors through tokenization. And now we've got here the gas and energy industry coming into the tokenization sector. So once again, for people who didn't have access to these markets before, they now have access. It's absolutely incredible, guys. And this is, like they say, this is where we're going for the next level of institutional RWAs. So this is what Hedera is providing. Look, as I've said before, more of this stuff is going to happen. Everything is going on chain. Like that's just literally what is happening. You're seeing it unfold bit by bit now, part by part. And overall, long term, everything of value will be tokenized. It just makes sense because it's making it a lot more faster, a lot more transparent, a lot more cheap, and a lot easier, right? So it's way more convenient. Yes, in terms of certain gatekeepers, there are going to be some institutions, people, etc., governments, blah, 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 that don't like this because there are certain aspects of it that kind of cuts into like a bank's bottom line, for example. Like if you think about, for example, DeFi, right? If you can go and get a loan through DeFi rather than having to go to a bank, one, you're not having to go through all of the bank's scrutiny as to whether they will give you the loan. And also, you won't have to go with their ridiculous, fees that they're putting on top, like the interest and everything that they're making. It'll be a lot more fair, right? So there are going to be, people or companies, whatever, that don't necessarily like all of this. But this is the thing where what you have to look at it is two things, right? You have to look at the pros and the cons. The pros massively outweigh the cons. And two, we're too far gone now. You know, it's like with AI. Like AI is here. There's no, putting it away anymore. We've seen what it can do. We know the benefits of what it's going to be. It's going to be pushed. And it's the same with crypto. Like, it doesn't matter who it's going to affect to the positive or the negative. We've seen the benefits of it, and overall it's a net plus. It's a net positive. So they're going to introduce this. They're going to tokenize things, and they're going to bring this stuff to the masses. That's just what it's going to be. So this is really great to see. Again, you've got Hedera being the trust layer. I completely agree. Like, this is why Hedera, I do feel, even though it's not in the top 10, I feel like at the end of the day, Hedera's got its place. And you've got to understand that, like, Hedera hasn't been around as long as some other cryptos, right? So you've got to understand that, like, it's still going to have more time to, show and prove. But it's doing that, right? Like, you can see the governing council that they have. So you've got, way more bigger brands, bigger names that are actually having a stake in Hedera's future, testing out the network, trying to provide ideas and use cases for the network to thrive. You can see the partnerships that they have. You can see people using it. You can see these types of tokenization that's going on. Like, when it comes to tokenization, I'm not saying that Hedera is the best or anything like that, but I've seen that Hedera has got a lot of action in that department. Like, Hedera does have a lot of RWA tokenization going on. And I've seen, like, developers leave networks like Polygon and Ethereum to come over to Hedera. Like, so that's just a fact. So at the end of the day, like, this is something where I can see Hedera could get a lot of traction in. And I think one of the positives that I'll just add into this as well is the fact that it's so carbon friendly. Add that into the mix too. And I think that's a very important step as to why people could go with Hedera over other chains, because not only are you using enterprise grade technology, you're also using one that's so carbon friendly as well, right? Which a lot of companies have as their, one of their economic goals, right? A lot of them have that whole reducing the carbon footprint as a goal that they want to do by like 2030, for example. So yeah, I think this is a massive deal, to be honest with you. As I say, this is just more of what's to come. Like, this is going to continue to build. Zonix have been around with Hedera for a little while now, but again, like, seeing this kind of stuff, it shows that they're providing a real great, a real great service to Hedera, because they're bringing in great use cases. I think this is going to just be, again, one of those things that's just opening the door for more people to have more access. And it's just opening up the door for more RWA tokenization, because once again, when people see this happening and, companies, etc., it's going to make them think, okay, is this something that's been successful? If it is this something that they would want to test out themselves as well? Is it something that they would think, okay, let us try and use Hedera, see how we get on, all that kind of jazz. So this all adds to, again, building up that credibility. And again, it just shows you the part that Hedera is playing in regards to the new industrial revolution, right? And this is where, crypto as a whole is clearly playing a part, but I think Hedera will be a strong proponent of it, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. But I look at these things, these types of use cases and these types of announcements that are coming out, and it's kind of happening, right? Like, we can see it happening through these announcements. So, like, I could be wrong long term, but like, it seems pretty self-explanatory to me. But yeah, I think that the future is looking very bright for Hedera in that regard. So I look forward to seeing what more comes from not just this, but other things and use cases as well. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.